welcome into Last Call. Keefer alongside Nathaniel Finch. This is your one-stop shop for all kinds of sports. We got UINDY sports. We got all around the college spectrum, D1, D2. We even got some pro stuff to talk about, Nathaniel.
However, throw that all out the window to start because Frank Reich has been fired in Indianapolis, and that's the top story right now. We have to talk about it. He is in his fifth season, or rather was in his fifth season with Indianapolis, and he is no longer. They fired him today and are replacing him with Jeff Saturday.
I don't know how I feel about the Saturday hire. I think it's more of a PR move. I think that the name Jeff Saturday rings a bell with Colts fans. And I don't see where they're coming from there, but you never know. I guess if you get the right people around him, he might succeed.
Rumblings started with Bubba Ventrone, was supposed to be the one to be the interim, and I thought, I'm not a huge fan of that, but everyone likes Bubba in the building, so he was the special teams coordinator. I thought it'd be pretty good. But then kind of flipped gears, and suddenly Chris Ballard, I believe, had even said that it's going to be John Fox to replace him, and that was the official, even to the point where Wikipedia had gone in. Not that Wikipedia means anything, but like these sources online went and put John Fox as the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. It was basically a done deal. Then all of a sudden you get a tweet from Jim Irsay, and Mr. Irsay gets what Mr. Irsay wants. He, being as closely tied with Jeff Saturday as he is, had put that tweet out saying, hey, we're going to hire, or promote rather, Jeff Saturday as that head coach. However, he wasn't even working in the building. His title was a special consultant, which is basically what everybody, all former players are, just so they're on the payroll. That way they can get paid to come do Ring of Honor events. So he went from being a special consultant, a.k.a. an ESPN analyst, to now he's going to be the head coach of this team. Hasn't been in the building every day. I don't know. I think it's a very interesting move to say the least, but I don't like it. And I love Jeff Saturday, don't get me wrong. I just don't like this.
And you know, I guess his experience calling, or he was an analyst for Fox and for CBS for a little bit. Maybe that's where they're coming from with it. But I'm right there with you, Nathaniel. I don't understand the hiring.
And he's a great player. He's great for the organization. Everybody loves Jeff Saturday. The team loves him. Everyone's going to buy in, of course. I just feel like when you have a guy like John Fox, who was a head coach in 3 different stops. He was with the Panthers, my Broncos, and the Bears recently, 5 or 6 years ago. He has that head coach experience. He can lead the ship for the final half of the season. But instead to go with Saturday, who's Irsay's boy, I get it. I just don't think it's a good move.
We'll see how it plays out. It could very well work out very well for the Colts for the second half of the season. Who knows?
Interesting, though. How about this? The reason why Frank Reich was an Indianapolis Colt was because Josh McDaniels backed out to stay with the Patriots, right? Who are the Colts playing this upcoming Sunday?
Lo and behold.
Josh McDaniels and the Raiders. It'll be interesting. Traveling to Vegas, we'll see how that game goes with Jeff Saturday on the headset.
Who knows? Who knows? Well, moving on, UIndy sports, man. UIndy football. They're coming off a big win against William Jewell. What do you think about that one, Nathaniel?
I think it was a great game. It started off with a dog running across the field. Not a bad way. I like to see that. But it was a great game for Indianapolis. It kind of started slow. You see here it was 20-14 in the third quarter. That's not very often with this matchup. But then UIndy started to really open things up. Jaquan Buchanan had 3 rushing touchdowns, and they just ended up pummeling the William Jewell by the end of it and made it look a lot better than what it was at that point in the third quarter. The final score there was 48-14.
Yeah, and like you said, Jaquan Buchanan. That is the name of the team so far, Jaquan Buchanan. I mean, multiple rushing touchdowns in every single one of his starts so far since Toriano Clinton went down with his injury. I think he's done a great job filling in that role, but kind of strange not seeing Tori out there, that's for sure.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, Toriano warmed up and he was starting in warm-ups wearing his full uniform, helmet and everything. Maybe a little bit of gamesmanship from Keevers. I'm sure he was good enough to where he didn't feel he'd get hurt further if he was out there warming up, but maybe also to throw a little bit of panic in William Jewell.
Probably.
Didn't end up playing at all, but that really gives hope for the future that maybe Toriano could play against Truman State, the rivalry game at home, senior night, the big game. He might be able to suit up on Saturday.
We'll see, and that's a big game. Truman is a very good football team. 8-1 coming into this one. Should be a great contest. Always is when UIndy plays Truman. And really, the winner of this game will probably make it out of their region into the playoffs. Actually, the D2 selection show is on Sunday, so the day after the game, we'll find out if Truman makes it, if UIndy makes it, or there's a chance that both make it into the playoffs. So we'll see.
2 top 20 teams. UIndy ranked 14. They keep climbing up this poll. They got all the way up to 8. lost to Saginaw Valley, but they just keep creeping forward. They're now ranked 14th, and I'm excited to see how this game on Saturday goes and how that can parlay to maybe even to a home playoff game.
We'll see. That'll be a fun one. Of course, if it is a home playoff game, you can catch that on UINDY TV's YouTube for sure.
And what else UINDY TV broadcasted was over the weekend, we had the swimming and diving meet. It was a meet between obviously UINDY and Wabash and Butler, a three-way meet. And the big story comes out of swimming and diving for the men's team. A big record broken by, as we see here, Julio Osuna.
Yeah, just a big-time record, a diving record, most points scored by a diver in the meet. I mean, just a fantastic job by Osuna.
And it was Friday night when the #1 ranked UINDY men's team, they fell 151 to 145 to McKendree on the road. So it was kind of it was obviously a tough loss. And they really took it out on Wabash, man. They beat the heck out of Wabash. Women's team won against Butler, and Wabash Butler didn't have a men's team, but it was just a good day on Saturday for both the men and women's teams. Two top 5 ranked teams for good reason.
And Wabash swimming is solid. Butler swimming is solid. Just because Wabash is Division III does not mean it's bad swimming. Just because Butler's maybe not the top tier Division I swimming team doesn't mean it's bad swimming. It's great swimming. And UINDY really competes very well in swimming every year, year in, year out.
As far as UINDY volleyball, to wrap up our UINDY sports, they got the 3-1 win over Maryville, a tough team, and that now puts them in the GLVC tournament. So I'm really curious to see how the tournament goes this upcoming weekend, but it's good to see that they can have that success and really get into the tournament. We'll see if they can run the table.
Yeah, excited to see how that plays out. Best of luck to all UINDY teams competing this coming up weekend, especially volleyball, especially football, and swimming coming up as well. So when we come back from break, we'll take a look around the rest of the state and around D1 football. Stick around.
Making is in essence telling a story. Every time I make something, I'm telling a story. When a kid gets their hands on the world and learns that they can make their fantasy play, that they can make their reality, that's power. As far as I'm concerned, everyone should feel that kind of power. So if there's something that interests you, go figure out how to do it. Go tell your own story. There it is. I want to know why you make.
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
Welcome back to Last Call, your one-stop shop for all kinds of sports. Nathaniel, IU Penn State happened on Saturday. Tough loss for my Hoosiers, for sure.
Yeah, and me being a Purdue fan, I feel for you as they had a tough loss over the weekend as well. We'll get to that in a little bit, but first for IU and Penn State, the final score there was 45-14, and it just wasn't what fans hoped for. Obviously, with Penn State being a top 15 team, you knew it would be a tough draw. But at home, you thought there'd be a little bit more fight. And it started out pretty well. We see here it was 7-7 before that touchdown run in the second quarter. So it kind of started well, and then it didn't quite finish the way that an IU fan would hope.
Well, it's IU's defense, and that's always the problem with IU is their defense. They can't locate a running back, as you see here. Another rushing touchdown and another rushing touchdown. I'm sorry, that was a play action. They had another rushing touchdown later on. It's been week in, week out that IU has not been able to finish plays, finish games. They look good in one half, look bad in the next, and that's just the tail of the tape for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, and obviously with Penn State being a good team, it's a tough draw, but it was tough to lose that. As far as Purdue and Iowa, similarly, could not get the win, and Iowa is not as high caliber of a team as Penn State is. This should have been Purdue's game to begin with, but there's too many mistakes. They weren't able to get the win. The final score there, 24-3. Purdue mustered a field goal against this team. This is Iowa. This is not prime Kirk, Iowa back in the day. These guys they're not the team that would blank a Purdue team like this.
Well, in quarterback play, as you see right there, was the issue for the Boilers. Of course, there's not much you can do if you don't have a competent quarterback under center, and I wouldn't venture to say the quarterback's not competent, but he did not look good at all in that game.
That's what I think's crazy is because he has been so good. He started the season super hot, did have a bit of an injury issue, but just the fact that Aiden O'Connell has played well this year, he's top 6 all-time of passing yards in a Purdue uniform, and yet, for whatever reason, he's just been on such a slump.
I mean, we've seen him throw for 400, 450 yards, 5 touchdowns against major Division I opponents, and whether they were wins or losses, it was tough.
Forget Purdue, forget IU. Notre Dame reigned supreme against a number 5 ranked Clemson team. My goodness, what happened? This is crazy. Notre Dame came up against a top 5 ranked team, and it's their 2nd ranked win in as many weeks. They played very well.
Yeah, they're on a roll right now, and this is not the same team that lost to Marshall and lost $3 million in the process. I mean, to do this against a Clemson team that was top 5 and has a great quarterback and a solid defense, they really capitalized on the mistakes that Clemson made.
You see this pick 6 goes all the way and gave Notre Dame a 28-0 lead in the 4th quarter. 28-0. 13 minutes left. I don't know how they did it. The defense had a blocked punt touchdown, a pick 6, and it was a pretty impressive day, and it was the running game that really helped.
Well, that's the signature win that Notre Dame's looking for to gain some confidence in Freeman as a coach. I think it's a big deal, and I'm proud of Notre Dame.
Let's move on, talk about Georgia, Tennessee.
What a game.
Came into this one thinking it would be a great game down to the wire, and Georgia shows why they should be that number 1 team in the college football playoff.
You know, two undefeateds coming in, 2 powerhouses that looked like it would be, you know, a 35-34 game, but man, Georgia just really proved, like you said, why they should be the number 1 seed, the number 1 team in the nation. And it was an interesting turn of events for Tennessee to turn around and lose by so many points to the Bulldogs.
27-13 was that final score, and it was just such a tough game. I came in thinking 8.5 was how much Georgia was favored. I said there's no way that Tennessee's going to lose by 9 points or more, and sure enough, they got their butts handed to them.
And you would think the big arm of Hendon Hooker would allow Tennessee to gain some of those yards back. I mean, in a shootout, you want a quarterback with a huge arm like he has, somebody that's able to be mobile, escapability in the pocket, and then, you know, launch one on the fly. And he did not have that going at all in that game.
Plenty happening over the weekend in college football. Let's take a look at the AP poll and see what the rankings look like here after this week. Just released today. We see here obviously Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and now TCU. TCU's at number 4.
My boys, Max Duggan, Heisman candidate. He will win it if TCU keeps winning.
Clemson falls down to 12, Alabama down to 10. 2 teams that took big losses, and I mean, how about that? It's been an interesting last few weeks, but who would have thought if we looked at the AP poll for Week 11 at Week 1, everyone would have thought we were crazy. It's wild.
Well, here's what I find crazy about the AP poll. Tulane is ranked. They're coming in at the 15th spot.
Yeah.
They've been playing great football. If they keep on the roll that they're on, they might end up in a New Year's 6. Who knows?
For college football, it's what we got, but how about the MLB? It's going to be the last time we talk about it on this show for quite a while, which is pretty sad to say, but October baseball did its thing. We got a game in November, and it ended in Houston's favor. They win the World Series in Game 6. 4-2 was the final series tally, and they were hard to stop this entire series. They didn't lose a playoff game until this World Series. It's just hats off to the Houston Astros.
Yeah, I don't know if I can agree with hats off. I'm not a big fan of shooters personally. That's what I'm going to call them. I don't know how you feel about the issue, Nathaniel, but nonetheless, I think they put in the effort. They obviously didn't do anything to gain an advantage in this particular series or this set of the playoffs this year.
I don't know. I mean, you can go take a look at those pictures of Framber Valdez with the sticky stuff on his hand and rubbed on his pants.
Everybody's using that now, though. They're getting away with it.
It still counts as cheating. I do not like the Astros, but that doesn't matter because they won the World Series, and I will tip my cap to them because they had an incredible season. And while I might have been pulling for the Phillies, that's hats off to the Astros for sure.
And hats off to the Phillies. I mean, after the start that they had this
wins.
season, they really didn't look like they were going to be a World Series runner-up at the beginning of the season.
Not at all.
Well, I will say the Colts, they did not fare very well.
We'll tell you about that next. Not a fun conversation. Here on Last Call.
The day that JD was injured, I had woke up to an odd phone call. It was the military calling to tell me that he had stepped on an IED.
The day I got injured, she got wounded as well. And the veterans wouldn't be the men that we are and the women that we are today if it wasn't for our better half helping us every direction we go.
Find the nonprofits that support veterans. Offer your time if you don't have the financial resources to offer. There's always a way to help.
Visit saluteheroes.org to learn more.
Welcome back to Last Call. Let's take a look at how the Colts fared over the weekend. This is the reason, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why Frank Reich got fired, and it's their loss to the Patriots. The final score 26-3, and it was the worst start that the Colts have had, the worst game they've had on offense in 20-something years.
Yeah, they fell flat. They did not look good offensively. Defense did not look good. Granted, in the first half, New England didn't look good at all either. But, you know, it was a weird day for both offenses, I think.
Yeah, and we see here it was 6-0 in the second quarter, so it stayed close for a bit, but then New England's defense kicked in, they did their thing, and it was not the day for Sam Ehlinger that Colts fans had hoped. And I don't know, it was tough for Indianapolis because they just fired Marcus Brady, right? They had benched Matt Ryan a couple weeks ago, and yet they've gotten worse. 121 total yards at the end of the game by this offense, -2 yards after the first quarter. It was putrid, and there was no reason for Frank Reich to keep his job for another week. I think the Colts made the right call there, and we see the pick six here that kind of sealed it, if you could say that, but it was just a tough go.
I mean, how about this, though? The Pats had both a defense and special teams touchdown. They looked good on that end, but 0 for 14 on third down for the Colts. Just falling flat and not finishing.
Enough of bad football. Let's take a look at some good football. How about the Dolphins at Chicago?
Here goes Phillips chasing the quarterback. Come out again with a block and a touchdown. Wilson, the running back. Tagovailoa has it to the end zone. Touchdown. Tyreek Hill. We just told you he's only been is back for Miami battling win. It was blocked on the play. Phillips got it. Picked up Van Ginkel. Big play failed to run for 17. Back he goes. Here comes Chubb. There goes the ball. Touchdown. Mooney. What a grab.
This game ended 35-32, and for the Dolphins, they get another win. They're now 6-3.
Fake to Wilson.
And
caught for the touchdown. Waddle.
How about this? The AFC might be the best.
Second touchdown pass by.
The Bills, the Jets are half a game behind them. The Dolphins right here. It's been a pretty impressive division, and just the Dolphins have been fun to watch, and really lately the Bears have too.
Yeah, I mean, Fields, man, 178 rushing yards. He looked fantastic with his feet and through the air. He didn't make too many mistakes through the air.
Yeah.
Things are cooking.
That's a new record. 178 rushing yards by a quarterback. Eclipses Michael Vick, the most in a single game by a quarterback ever. Justin Fields is a bright prospect, but I mean, in the end, it was Tua who got the win. Let's move on. Let's talk about those other AFC East teams, the Bills and the Jets. The win, they upset the Bills. Who would have thought? We see Josh Allen played a great first half. He, in his own words, said he really struggled with three. Oftentimes, it's a prime spot. And there's a reason why the Jets were able to come back from 14 to 3. The score was there at the end of the second quarter. Come back and get the win. They're not half the game behind the Bills. This is a great
second and 17.
Who would have thought that the New York Jets would be playing quality football this year? And now, you know, Breece Hall falls with the ACL injury. They trade for James Robinson. James Robinson finds the end zone in this one. He's stepping into a big role. They're running back by committee as well. Michael Carter looking good out of the backfield as well. I mean, it's just been good football for the Jets, and I laugh as I say that because I can't fathom that. The Jets have not been good at all in our lifetime.
I know, it's been very weird, and they had a sky cam issue where it fell. It was like a 12-minute delay at the end of the game. But that's what gave the Jets they needed to kind of cool off and get the momentum they needed to mount that drive. And we see here, how about Sauce Gardner? A great play on Gabe Davis to force that. Big reason why they're able to get the win. But how about Sunday Night Football? The Chiefs and Titans, the Titans have had Andy Reid's number, right? They've always done such a good job keeping him at bay. He's 2-9 previously against the Titans, so they've really done a good job. Mike Vrabel has his number, and it kind of looked like it was going to be all Chiefs early with that 9-0, but then the Titans came back, a few unanswered scores. Suddenly it was the Titans' game to lose, and they did just that in overtime. Harrison Butker missed a couple kicks, but he got the go-ahead field goal in overtime, and it was just an impressive win here for the Chiefs. 20-17 was that score.
Well, now that's what makes a kicker, right? You know, everybody remembers the bad things, the misses as a kicker, but to be able to miss and then step up and hit it when it matters, I mean, that's good football from their kicker.
They ran in the touchdown, ran in the two-point conversion. He put the team on his back this game. He didn't have the support that we're used to seeing. He put the team on his back, and he played very well, and it was so much fun to watch. What a treat in overtime. We see the game-winning kick by Butker in overtime. But, I mean, Andy Reid now 21-3 coming off a bye. The Chiefs, they don't lose coming off these byes, although it looked like it was close.
No, but how about this for Tennessee? No wide receiver caught a pass in that game. They're missing A.J. Brown, that's for sure.
They sure are. And if you put A.J. Brown's numbers up against the entire receiving core of the Eagles, it's not even close.
It's ridiculous.
Because he's doing so much better than everyone else they have on that roster. Traylon Burks, Robert Woods, they're just not getting the production.
I'd be beside myself if we didn't mention former Indiana Hoosier Nick Westbrook-Akeen as well. Yeah. Although he's looked horrible all year.
The most action he got yesterday was at the end of the game on a Hail Mary situation. They had him in at safety because he hasn't been getting any looks on offense, and they've just really struggled to get their wide receivers going. Probably the most impactful move was getting rid of A.J. Brown there. We see Tyreek Hill leave. Chiefs still have success. Obviously, Hill has plenty of success too. But A.J. Brown leaving, that's just left the Titans kind of in disarray.
Well, I mean, and you got to think from the perspective of the Chiefs. They reloaded. They got rid of Tyreek Hill, but then they brought in Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yep.
They already
and
had
Kadarius Toney.
I mean, Kadarius Toney now. I'm excited to see what he'll do as a Chief.
Yeah.
They're going to throw some crazy packages out there. Andy Reid, his offensive mindset is insane. I can't wait to see what the Chiefs do with all this talent.
How about this? Patrick Mahomes, 43 of 68 pass attempts, 446 yards, 2 total touchdowns, 1 on the ground, 1 through the air, 6 carries for 63 yards. An amazing stat line. Malik Willis, 5 of 16 for 80 yards, that have 8 carries for 40 yards. So a much less workload, but they weren't asking Willis to do what they asked Mahomes to do. It was just one of those signature games from Patrick Mahomes.
Right, and the thing about Willis is he really opens up the field for Derrick Henry. He's able to rush, with Tannehill back there. Tannehill's mobile, don't get me wrong, but Willis is a lot more mobile. You're able to run some read options, which really kind of lets Willis determine when Henry's going to get the ball and when Henry's going to get the ball in open space. And that's why Derrick Henry had 115 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, it was a pretty impressive day from him, and he almost did one of those signature games where he leads the Titans basically by himself, but Patrick Mahomes is too good. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Monday Night Football, your favorite teams on the docket. That's next here on Last Call.
Everybody can make something, because I think everyone has a spark of creativity. And the reason that I have to keep making is because I don't think my life would be as fulfilling without it. If you make things yourself, that means you're not cowering in fear. You're out there taking chances. That, I think, is my way of saying I love you to the world. All right, now I want to hear why you make.
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
And we're back here on Last Call. Jay Keefer alongside Nathaniel Finch. Nathaniel, it is Monday night. That means Monday Night Football tonight on ESPN, and it's featuring my boys.
How about the Ravens? They've got 2 primetime games in a row, Thursday Night Football. We saw that from Baltimore when we went there for the CBI trip, and then obviously they're on the road for Monday Night Football tonight. But it's a treat to see these guys on primetime. They're playing the Saints tonight. Should be a good game.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Mark Andrews is out. That's kind of a big deal. He's pretty much the wide receiver 1 in Baltimore. But stepping into his place is Isaiah Likely, and Likely has stepped in for Andrews in previous games and not missed a beat. He's coming out of Coastal Carolina. He was kind of their tight end wide receiver combo, I guess, for lack of a better word. And I really like Isaiah Likely in this one, and I think he'll perform very well.
And how about this? Like you mentioned, Andrews was hurt last week, so kind of a late inactive, didn't get to play the game. Likely came in and played very well, scored a touchdown, kind of was a big reason why the Ravens were able to run through and play the way they were at the end of the game, get the win against the Bucs. I saw a few Isaiah Likely jerseys around Baltimore. That city likes him.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's big, he's fast. He does everything you want in a tight end. He's able to step back and block. I mean, he's quicker than Mark Andrews, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I think he's got a better reach than Mark Andrews. Now, Mark Andrews is a learned stud when it comes to football. He's very good at football. It doesn't mean that Isaiah Likely is going to jump in and take his spot, but the Ravens are known for multiple tight end packages. They're known to have 2, 3, Heck, I've seen 4 tight ends out there before, and just kind of pound the ball down other teams' throats, for lack of a better descriptor.
So before we get into some gambling lines here and what you like, what you don't like, tell me about how you think this game is going to go, just from a standpoint of a Ravens fan. How do you think Lamar's going to do? How do you think this game's going to go?
It's interesting because Lamar's in kind of evolution of sorts. He's trying to not run as much. He's trying to step back in the pocket. And I think that the New Orleans defense is good at creating some pressure. So it'll probably put some pressure on Lamar to stretch out the field and use his feet a little bit more. I think with J.K. Dobbins on IR, it'll be tough. But Gus Edwards, if you don't know who he is, he steps in, he does well. He was going to be the lead back before J.K. Dobbins was drafted. And I'm liking it in this one. I think it looks good for my Ravens.
Yeah, and Kenyon Drake has looked pretty good as well. He should be a big factor coming into this game against the Saints. I don't know. How do you think the defense is going to do that? Because Ravens defense has kind of struggled.
Struggles, yes.
Saints defense has been on and off. There's games, or the offense that is. The Saints offense can put up some great numbers, and they can kind of struggle sometimes. Maybe it depends a bit more on Alvin Kamara, and he's active and healthy. But how do you think this defense is going to hold up against the Saints?
Well, Andy Dalton in the past historically has had the Ravens number. So it depends on how Andy Dalton communicates with his receivers. Chris Olave out there, he's had a fantastic rookie season. Michael Thomas, of course, out with a toe injury. We'll see, man. I think Taysom Hill will be thrown in some interesting packages. And I don't know, I think it'll be closer than people think it will be. Heck, the line's set at 1.5 in the Ravens' favor. I'm still probably going to take the Ravens in that one, though.
Yeah, so let's move and transition into some gambling talk. 1.5 points. You like that spread for the Ravens?
I do.
Does that make you nervous at all? Is there any hesitation, or are you pretty set on it?
No, I'm a naturally nervous person, and when it comes to my teams, they tend to underperform. The Ravens have played down to their competition quite a bit. The Saints have played up to their competition in certain big games. I think, like I said, Andy Dalton is really stepping into a major role. Jameis is, of course, active, but only in emergency situations if Dalton goes down. We'll see. Even with Jameis behind center, though, I think the Saints will give the Ravens more than they've bargained for.
Especially on the road. Does that give you any hesitation with the Ravens being in New Orleans?
I don't know. I feel like the Ravens have played well on the road this year. For the most part, had a couple mishaps. But the Saints have played well at home, too. I think Alvin Kamara has a good feel for being back in New Orleans. I think that the crowd will kind of back him a lot. New Orleans is loud at Superdome, man. It gets loud, so expect some missed play calls from the Ravens. Expect it to quiet down for Andy Dalton to operate.
Yeah, let's get into some of the picks that you like, some parlays tonight. What do you think?
Parlay, man, I'm taking Alvin Kamara anytime touchdown. I think that's a given. He's coming off a 4-touchdown effort. 1 through the air, 3 on the ground. Taking Lamar Jackson anytime touchdown, and here's my big one: Isaiah Likely anytime touchdown. You parlay all 3 of those together, it's plus 1233 odds. Okay. Bet 10 to win 123. Isaiah Likely is going to score a touchdown in this one. I'm telling you, he will.
I don't mind that. That's obviously long odds. If you bet $10, you make $123, so you like that. But it's long odds. I'd say that Kamara's probably going to score. If my fantasy team is lucky, then he's going to score. Jackson, same thing. Got him in fantasy. Hopefully he gets that rushing touchdown. But, I mean, with Likely, I think I like that pick, and we'll see how that ends up playing out. I think I'm going to take the Ravens. The spread has me worried, so I would take just straight money line, 1.5. Obviously, it's a low spread, but I just think that on the road, it could be one of those games. I'll take the Ravens spread. Give me 1.5.
1.5's a lot of points, man. It's a lot of points. It could just be 1. The Ravens have underperformed, like I say. But how about this boost here? The FanDuel boost, Lamar Jackson, 40-plus rush yards, Chris Olave, 1+ touchdown. What do you think about that?
I don't mind that. Lamar, I took the boost with Lamar having 40-plus on that Thursday night game. It worked out well. I'd say that 40-plus is not too hard. He had a 25-yard run last week, and it worked out pretty well. So I'll take that with you as well, plus 350.
Olave finding the end zone is pretty likely as well.
Yeah.
Almost as likely as Isaiah Likely scoring a touchdown in this one.
Keep in mind he's a Ravens fan. We'll see how Monday Night Football goes tonight. Thank you for watching Last Call today. More next Monday. Last Call.